August 31, 2010, the official end of U.S. combat operations in Iraq. But what does the end really sound like when you are still taking fire in the dark? Operation New Dawn marked the withdrawal phase of the Iraq War, a transition from Operation Iraqi Freedom to an advise and assist mission. Yet for the soldiers on the ground, the calendar meant nothing when the radio crackled with contact reports and the desert night flashed with tracer rounds. And if you think withdrawal meant safety, ask the medic who ran toward the gunfire instead of away from it. In the final months of 2010 and into 2011, as U.S. forces prepared to depart by the December 18, 2011 deadline set under the U.S.-Iraq Status of Forces Agreement, thousands of troops were still conducting partnered operations with Iraqi security forces, clearing routes seeded with improvised explosive devices, responding to insurgent attacks in Baghdad, Mosul, and the volatile Diyala province. And among them were combat medics whose job did not change with the mission title, because bullets and shrapnel do not respect political milestones. And one such night during the withdrawal phase, in a neighborhood on the outskirts of Baghdad were narrow streets, twisted between concrete blast walls and abandoned buildings scarred by years of fighting. A joint patrol moved cautiously under a moonless sky when an IED detonated beneath the lead vehicle, lifting metal and men into the air in a blast that felt like the earth itself had split open. And before the dust settled, small arms fire erupted from rooftops, sharp cracks echoing between the walls as insurgents attempted to exploit the chaos, turning a routine security patrol into a desperate fight for survival. And in that moment, a medic already carrying more weight than most, with aid bags stuffed with tourniquets, hemostatic gauze, airway kits, chest seals, morphine syringes, and the quiet knowledge that seconds decide who lives and who dies, heard the call every medic dreads and trains for: man down. He did not hesitate, because hesitation in combat can be fatal, and sprinted across an open stretch of road illuminated by muzzle flashes, rounds snapping past him with that unmistakable angry hiss, reaching a wounded soldier whose leg was torn by shrapnel and whose breathing came in ragged gasps. And as the firefight intensified, the medic worked with practiced precision, applying a tourniquet high and tight to stop catastrophic bleeding, packing the wound, shouting reassurances over the roar of gunfire, while another explosion rocked the street and debris rained down like deadly confetti. And this was the paradox of Operation New Dawn. Even as the United States publicly declared a shift to stability and support, violence remained a daily reality, with insurgent groups launching suicide bombings and complex attacks to undermine both Iraqi forces and the narrative of progress. And on days like October 31, 2010, when coordinated attacks across Baghdad killed dozens, the illusion of calm shattered completely, reminding every service member that the war's final chapter was still being written in blood. And medics bore witness to the most intimate horrors of that chapter, kneeling in pools of oil-slick darkness that turned out not to be oil at all, feeling for pulses in the flicker of burning vehicles, making split-second decisions about who could be saved and who could not, decisions that would echo in their minds long after the last convoy rolled south toward Kuwait. And there were classified missions too, operations rarely discussed in public briefings, where small teams advised Iraqi counter-terrorism units, targeting high-value insurgent leaders under the cover of night, moving through buildings that smelled of cordite and fear, knowing that a single hidden trigger wire could end the mission before it began. And during one such raid in early 2011 in northern Iraq, a partnered force entered a compound suspected of housing an extremist cell when a hidden suicide vest detonated inside a hallway, plunging the structure into darkness and smoke so thick it burned the lungs. And in that suffocating chaos, the medic pushed forward again, stepping over shattered doors and fallen debris, guided by screams and the faint beam of a weapon light, treating blast injuries that most people only see in movies, but that in reality are silent and terrifying. With eardrums ruptured, lungs collapsed, and eyes wide with shock. And if you have never heard the sound a wounded soldier makes when he is trying not to cry out, because he does not want to distract his teammates, you cannot fully grasp the weight that combat medics carry, because they are not only healers but witnesses to courage at its rawest edge. And as 2011 progressed and base closures accelerated, convoys stretched for miles along Iraqi highways, hauling equipment south while still vulnerable to roadside bombs. And even in these final months, attacks continued, including deadly incidents in June and August 2011 that killed U.S. troops as the withdrawal neared completion, proving that the enemy understood symbolism and sought to stain the closing act with violence. And through it all, medics remained on every patrol, every convoy, every rooftop overwatch position, scanning their sectors while silently rehearsing trauma protocols in their minds, knowing that at any second routine could become nightmare. And there was horror not only in the explosions, but in the aftermath, in the eerie quiet that followed a firefight when smoke drifted through broken windows and the only sounds were distant sirens and the low hum of generators, in the sight of abandoned houses where families had fled years before, toys scattered in courtyards now used as fighting positions, in the knowledge that for many Iraqis, the war did not end neatly on a December date but lingered in sectarian tensions and fragile institutions. And yet amid that darkness there was heroism so ordinary it almost went unnoticed, like the medic who stayed awake through the night beside a critically wounded Iraqi soldier awaiting evacuation, adjusting for fluids and monitoring vital signs while whispering steady words in broken Arabic. Because compassion does not require perfect language. Or the team that risked exposure to extract a wounded comrade from a disabled vehicle under sustained fire, forming a human shield as bullets struck the armored doors inches from their hands. Acts of courage that rarely make headlines, but define the character of those who served. And when December 18, 2011 finally arrived and the last U.S. troops crossed the border into Kuwait, officially ending the military mission in Iraq, there was no grand cinematic swell of music, only the quiet understanding among those who had survived that they were leaving behind a country forever tied to their memories, some proud, some painful, some haunted. And for the medic under fire, Operation New Dawn was not just a strategic transition, but a test of endurance, skill, and humanity under conditions most people will never experience. A chapter where the line between life and death was measured in heartbeats, and where the true measure of withdrawal was not political speeches, but whether every wounded soldier made it onto the evacuation bird alive. And so as you reflect on this phase of the Iraq War, on the nights when the sky over Baghdad flickered with gunfire, even as the word withdrawal echoed in press conferences, ask yourself this: when history writes that combat operations ended on August 31, 2010, does it also remember the medics sprinting through tracer-lit streets, the horror of hidden bombs in darkened hallways, and the quiet heroism that unfolded long after the cameras turned away?